So I wanted to go through a really quick video format version of the example in the article, just to make sure that I hit upon all the concepts and show them in a little bit more conducive way. I've got a test project here that's completely not made up and really real that I have in Pivotal Tracker, which I'm using as an example simply because I think it's the most graceful way to illustrate this process. So as you can see, I've started in May. I've got a 2-week sprint cadence going on. I've chewed through a number of sprints here, starting in May. I've gone through pretty consistently some points here, 16 points, 14 points. Then I had a bit of a tough sprint. I only had 80% focus factor, meaning maybe one of my 5-person team was away, so I only hit 7 points. But as you can also see, I kind of sucked as a product owner. There was a huge thing that should have been split up that spilled over from sprint 3 to sprint 4, and then making sprint 4 kind of beefy at 17 points. Throughout there, first I hit a snag in sprint 5, only doing 1 point because I only had a 30% focus factor, meaning 1 or 2/3 of my team were somewhere doing God knows what. So this huge chunk here got spilled over to sprint 6, again making sprint 6 relatively beefy. And then I've been trucking throughout the summer, sometimes a little bit less manpower, but still maintaining my average velocity right now at 15 points. I also have a relatively well estimated and maintained and prioritized backlog here, where there's a ton of stories towards the completion of my project or to the end of my product improvements, ending in the very last story that nobody cares about down here. They're all estimated, as you can see from these lines on the left-hand side of these items, and I'm allowed to chew through them at 15 points per sprint. So here, this current sprint going on right now, I've got 13 points in there because this guy at 5 points could not fit. It would have pushed my sprint to overcommitment. Same thing here with the following sprint. It's only allowing me to commit to 13 points because I'm again sucking as a PO, and I have an 8-pointer here that wouldn't fit in this sprint. But even though my average velocity is 15, I've got 17 points stacked in here because the assumption is that this item, because it's so big, it'll probably start in the previous sprint and spill over here, which means this will be a beefier sprint again, but the average of these sprints will still remain at about 15 points a sprint. The beauty here is that I know exactly when each single item will be delivered. So for example, if somebody wants to know when this mini story will get delivered, I know exactly it'll be in the sprint ending November 5th. Of course, if something happens and my average velocity suddenly drops to 10, I immediately know that the mini story is now actually on the 3rd of December. So nothing really changes except for my understanding of how fast I can chew through the backlog changes. Similarly, when somebody goes nuts and adds something to the top of my backlog, let's say we have another drive-by, somebody swoops and does a drive-by, adds an 8-pointer to the top of my backlog, it's right there. Now suddenly everything cascades down, and now mini story is set to be delivered on the 19th of November. All this without me doing anything to my dates. All I'm doing is I'm managing my priorities and I'm managing my estimations, and I'm obsessing over past performance. That's it.